Hi everyone, today what I planned for you is 3 very, very quick communication tips that I think will make a big difference in your career advancement, and actually are the kind of tips that sort of if you don't apply them, you end up getting a perception created around your relevance to leadership. And really it's a perception that's created not because of your skills and capabilities, but actually because of the lack of resonance you have with senior leaders. And these 3 tips are super easy to apply, and it's really just the discipline of looking at your communication, whether it be by email or the way in which you have verbal communications or formal presentations. It's really just taking this checklist and making sure that you answer these 3 things every single time you have a communication with senior leadership. So the first that I want to talk about is your intent. So one of the pitfalls we run into as we are communicating with broader number of stakeholders or with leaders that are actually share their leadership with a whole bunch of other portfolios is that we're not always clear about our intent. And if you're not clear around your intent for your particular communication, then it will cause a lot of confusion. And what I mean by intent is, what do you want the other person to do with this? Why do you feel the need to communicate with them? So that means at this point, if we're in upper management, we're not communicating to prove that we're doing work. They know you're doing work. They know you're smart. They know you're doing work. They know you're doing your job. So these pure information for the sake of information are sort of no longer welcome. The likely intent, if you're keeping somebody just informed, is that it's because they've been asked to inform. But more likely than that is there's a purpose that you're communicating, and it generally involves needing either their guidance, a decision, flexibility to make your own decision, or removing it an obstacle. And so this first step, this is just a checklist of, in the very first line of my communication, am I being clear about my intent? I'd like to tell this to you because I need a decision from you, or I'd like to tell this to you because I'd like your guidance, or I'd like flexibility to make a decision on this parameter. And really just being that forthright allows the leader to sort of understand, with the end in mind, how they should be listening to the next pieces of information. So it's very critical. The second is to make sure that you are starting with the punchline. So one of the things that we get into the habit of doing sometimes, I think because of our upbringing in math problems and science problems as technical leaders, is we actually get used to showing our work. You know, when the question would say, solve the following equation, show your work. So the notion of showing all the integral steps, and sometimes that sneaks into our communication strategy. So for instance, somebody will say, what do you think we should do? And instead of us answering the answer or the punchline of the joke, we will say, well, first we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then we did this, and we show our work. And really, it's very, very frustrating. The leader knows you did lots of things. They just want to know what do you think they should do? And if they are curious about all those steps, they will ask you. So the second tip that I want you to try and apply is catch yourself if you start to show your work. If you start to sort of explain all the intricate details of the processes you went through. Start with the punchline and wait and see if there is a question around the process. Did you consider this? Yes, we considered this and 3 other priorities. What were the other priorities? You can allow it to be a dialogue. Our senior leadership needs to be able to extract the information that they need to help with the decision, and you need to allow the space to guide them and not drag them through a lot of impertinent information to their decision-making process. And the third tip is don't leave home without analogies or metaphors or shared experiences that can be relevant to describe a situation in business relevant terms. So when I say don't leave home, I mean don't leave your team, your core team that lives and breathes the solution or the problem that you're dealing with. When we're dealing with complexity, it becomes impossible for a leader that's managing multiple portfolios or multiple projects to be involved in the intricate details and to understand the complexities that you're dealing with in terms of all the parameters that you're solving for. And so in order for the communication to be efficient, and in order for that individual leader to be able to provide you with the input or action that you require, you need to be able to explain to them in terms that they understand. And some of the biggest tricks are to sort of have sports analogies or cooking analogies or commonly used phrases like we're at a fork in the road, so it's this way or that way, or whatever supports you in speaking in either business relevant terms or in analogies to accelerate the effectiveness of communication. And the degree to which you feel like you need to drag everybody into all the intricacies of those complexities, I think you're just not doing your homework. So the third tip is to always practice practice trying to make the information that you're communicating very, very accessible to the other person. That is your job. And it doesn't mean we're dumbing down your work. We don't need to have pride around keeping things complex. What we need to have pride around is the outcomes that we drive and the effectiveness with which we're able to collaborate with our cross-functional leaders across the enterprise. So I hope that's helpful. So very quick checklist for this week. Every time you communicate, start with your intent. What do I want this person to do when they see this? Secondly, don't show your work. Start with the punchline, ruin the joke, spoil the plot line, whatever analogy works for you. And the third being, don't leave home without a chest full of analogies that will help you make complex issues seem simple. And those 3 tips alone will accelerate your career. Please try to apply it this week. Let me know what you think. Let me know your successes. Have a great week. And please share this tip if you found it useful or know someone who will. Thanks. Bye.